Hi, this is Rich Eiler with the NorthPoint Group. Today I'm going to walk you through one of our products called Process and Cost Analyzer. The Process and Cost Analyzer solution is a web-based assessment tool. It's available 24/7. It can be hosted or it can be accessed via the internet, or it can be actually supported on site within someone's intranet. So once again, hosted, accessed via the internet, or available on someone's intranet. Within the Process and Cost Analyzer, there are pre-built assessments that enable quick views of process areas, of activities, functional areas, whatever it may be. These pre-built assessments include supply chain assessments, which include make, move, buy, sell, plan. There are 23 product development assessments within the database, and there are assessments for all back office operations. And there are process and activity models for Tier 1 automotive, OEMs, aerospace and defense companies, the process industry, general manufacturing, distribution, and insurance. These pre-built assessments can be modified very quickly, as in done in hours, to meet specific client requirements. The next capability, the Process and Cost Analyzer enables operational, can be process, activity, functional, plant, office, technical, distribution, whatever, comparisons. Those comparisons would include processing time, transaction volumes, metrics, issues, resolutions. So I want to go out and identify where are those best practices or leading practices in my own organization. I know they exist somewhere. They're probably not common across all of my locations. And how can I quickly identify where they're at so I can leverage them across all of my locations? I want to find processes and activities. I want to find the costs associated with them. I want to find out the cycle time related to them. I want to identify non-value added activities. And I want to identify where the dollars being spent on what and for whom. So, cost effectively, it can be done in days or weeks versus weeks and weeks and months. Really, the time frame is dependent more on allowing the individuals on the other end of the assessment the time required to complete the assessment. Assessments once can set up in days and hours and completed in days and hours. So we're talking around a very quick turnaround. What you could expect is between a 20 and 40% cost savings in a particular area. This tool replaces much of the labor consumed in improvement programs. So absolutely supports Six Sigma efforts and reduces the time to complete projects significantly. Takes the labor out of it. It's a continuous process and activity efficiency solution. You can create baseline measurements and then repeat. You can identify where do I add or need to add capacity without adding additional costs. So if I look at merger and integrations, obviously I could use this to reduce much of the time and labor consumed in identifying processes and activities, compare them to other acquisitions that I made or standard operations that I have to compare what are they doing, the new acquired organization compared to what the rest of the organization does. I can also identify the costs associated with them and compare. So how does the costing work? There's an activity-based costing engine behind this. And you can either load in a payroll file, or if you want to be real precise, or if you just need to be close, you can put rates in by major categories or positions within an organization. So pinpoint accuracy, if so desired, close if you don't want to get to that point of precision. So you can also use this for automating the capture of current state activities. Let's say I'm moving to a new ERP or PLM system, whatever it happens to be, and I want to capture very quickly current state activity, cost, time, issues, etc. Once again, done very, very quickly. There's automated reporting associated with this. In addition, you can download the results into Excel. You don't need the IT organization to run this. There's a language translator associated with it. It's been used in Spanish and Portuguese and Polish and German and French. It doesn't really matter. So that's a quick overview. Some success stories. You can see them on this slide. So improving the commission and sales process and the dollars associated with it. Improving marketing, sales, and quotation processes. Consolidating divisions. Streamlining processes within those divisions. Reworking the supply chain. Combining sales, proposal, customer service organization. So, been used many, many times in many different areas to a great deal of success. Now, for those who really want to know how it works, you can follow along. If not, you've seen the overview. So, how does the analyzer really work? There's a structure to it. Functional organization, what we call activities, which are really noun, verb, adjective, processes that are above the activities, and then you can ask all types of questions. Activity questions, process questions, volume questions, metrics, subjective. It really doesn't matter. It gets down to what do I want to capture, how do I want to report it, and how can I do this very quickly. And I want to set it up so I can make it repeatable. So I've set up the structure. I've done this in hours, days at most. Now I want to pre-test it. So I'm going to send it to a few individuals within whatever functional process area or organization I'm dealing with. I'm going to test it with a few individuals. I may want to modify some of the questions because maybe I didn't get the types of responses I was looking for. Maybe the question needs to be redesigned. I then release the assessment. People perform them. Once again, I give them whatever time frame is appropriate for the number of questions I'm asking them. I can report against it very quickly, and I can keep track of interventions related to the assessment. So right now I'm going to take you through what some of the setup screens look like. So people don't see this except for the people that are setting up the assessment. So I talked about organizational units. So I can have as many roll-ups as desired. So in this case, we're looking at purchasing. And so I'm going to roll up preferred supplier partners into procurement, et cetera, et cetera. Underneath that, you can see a list of spend management. These are the activities that are going to associate with that organizational unit, meaning this organizational unit should do these activities. And then I'm going to associate those people in that organization then to those activities. Doesn't mean they do those. It means someone believes they perform these activities. When they are responding to this, they'll have the opportunity to either confirm or not, or add additional activities that are actually performed in that particular organizational area. Second thing, setting up activities. Now you can see on this screen, once again, it's a purchasing example. We have 34 activities. You can see from left to right, the activity verb, the adjective, and the noun. Identify new commodities to source. This can be input via an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, or you can do them one at a time. It really depends on how many you have and what's your inputs. How are you getting the data in? Very quickly, once again, if so desired. Now, above those activities are processes. So, another example in purchasing, if I go for, there's 6 major processes here. If I go from left to right, what are the different processes? We have numbers associated. The process name, the description, AKA, also known as. So if I have processes that have different names at different locations, I don't have to create different models. I can associate them. What the category is, what the type is it a support function? What's the beginning? What's the ending activity? And what's the purpose? What's the process output? Once again, easy to get information into the system and out of it. I can load it batch-wise, Word documents, whatever it happens to be. Here's an example, once again, setup of a question. So I'm going to ask a question around rework. You can see the standalone question I have. What percentage of the time is spent on this activity is spent redoing something someone else or something has done before? So I can look at direct savings. I can look at inverse savings associated with this. I can have, once again, all types of questions. This is labeled a standalone because it's not related to an activity or a process. I'm going to switch gears on you. Now that we've done all the setup, and obviously there'll be a lot more questions than that associated with a particular assessment, now you're going to see the other side of it. So now I'm a receiver, so I'm going to get an email message. I'm going to get, I'll have a user sign in and code associated with it. I go into the system. It's going to have my name associated with it. It's going to welcome me, and now I can have a number of what's called positioning statements that actually set up what we're asking you to do. So here's what we're doing, here's why, here's how long it should take. If I need to have additional positioning statements around what is an activity, what is the process, what does it mean when we're asking you time, how much time would be associated with, all those types of things can absolutely be set up. This is an example, and this is typically one of the first screens to come up, and it's the activity definition. So this is where the assessment participant defines the activities they perform. In addition, they're going to confirm what they do, and they have the opportunity to enter other things that they do. And then when they confirm those, then they'll be asked, how much time do I spend on those particular activities? So if I was live here, where my cursor's at, this would be a drop-down menu, and it would list all the activities that my boss or somebody that set this up believes that I perform. Once again, I'm going to confirm those. They'll drop down to this window, and I can also add other ones that I perform that nobody knew that I did. So this way I'm capturing what do I do, how much time do I spend on it, in what time frame, and what are the other things that I do that people didn't realize that I did. The importance of that, you want to capture what activities are being done, where they're done, and when they're done, and how much time and cost is associated with it. Therefore, I can look at, when in a reporting standpoint, I can identify, this is very interesting. This activity is being done in all these different processes. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be done at this one point in time. Unfortunately, because we have issues, it's being done many times across many different process areas by many different people. Just an example. So here's some other examples of questions. Now, I put them all on one screen here. They would be on their own individual screen if I was actually taking this assessment. So what is the processing time associated with? How much time does it take to identify common units, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Once again, this is associated with an activity. The bottom part is where we identify an activity with a process. So once again, I want to identify where those activities done and what processes so I can identify if there are issues, the example I gave a few minutes ago. So if this was live, there'd be a drop down in here, and I would select what processes are related to this activity. Other sample questions. In this case, a description of the current sourcing process. There is no process. The process is not followed. Business-wide process is followed, whatever it happens to be. So I can set these questions up to cover what areas. They can be numeric, they can be drop-down select, or they can just be type in whatever you want the answer to be. Obviously, for automated reporting, the drop-down menus and the selection of numbers, etc., make it much easier to report against. Bottom part, what suppliers consume the most time from an expediting standpoint, and you can identify suppliers. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a look at a few of the example reports here that would come out of the system. In this case, I was looking for, and I combined it all on one screen, I was looking for best practices. So I was trying to identify what locations over here on the left-hand side utilize what capabilities in supporting negotiation, new suppliers, electronic sourcing tools, which ones do they use? Are they used extensively? How are supplier site assessments? Are they done? Are they done via the phone? Are they done in person, etc.? I'm trying to identify what the particular organizations do so I can identify, yes, I know what a best practice is. What are the different locations doing relative to that best practice? The bottom part is a different one. I'm looking for complexity. So I'm asking a question around complexity. But I can ask questions, once again, around all kinds of things. But in this case, I'm looking for complexity by location. Now, this example, I'm looking for the top 5 activity costs by location. So they've gone through once again. They've completed the assessment. I'm reporting this, and I'm setting all these different parameters up so I can identify, in this case, what activities that are listed here and which ones are the highest activity costs by location. So these are the ones that came up, so I can start to compare from location. Why then are these activities more costly at one location than another one? I can then look back at inputs and outputs. Do they use the same inputs to get the additional outputs or the same outputs? What's the time associated with it? Who does it? Where are they done? All the things that are going to help me uncover why those activity costs are high at those locations. This is a setup screen for a report. And you can see the question I'm asking is supplier expediting requirements. I can set up and view it by location, activity, cost driver, process, name, time. I can sort this descending, ascending. I can look at certain supplier. I can do all kinds of things depending on how I structure my reporting. So in this case, it's looking at percents. It's also looking at dollars. Another one, in this case, I'm asking about information gap. Percent of time information is incomplete or inaccurate. What's the percent of time? How does that relate to the dollars? So you can see the bottom part of this, I can view dollars. So in this case, it's costing almost $18 million in Ottawa and about $8 million a little over at Lansing. Finally, I've run this. I've gone out and worked with the teams. We put together some interventions. And at this point, I want to take a look at what interventions are we putting in place for what areas of improvement, and I can track that in the system as well. So finally, some analyzer facts. This is what it runs on. So web server, applications server, database server, etc. So for those technical people, this is what's behind it. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, please go to the NorthPoint website, www.thenorthpointgroup.net, or contact any of our people. They can address your questions.